It's tax time. Have you completed your tax return? Not yet? Well then, it's a good thing you waited, because I'm here to tell you just how you can avoid paying tax, just like a multinational corporation.
You get it?
Yeah, I got it.
Yes. Got it.
Firstly, why do we even pay tax? Well, there are a bunch of reasons. The one we all think of is to raise revenue. Taxes help fund the social and community services we all rely on every day. Everything from roads to parks, schools and medicine. 2, for policy reasons. For example, items such as tobacco and alcohol are taxed more heavily in an effort to reduce consumption of these goods. 3, to achieve social goals, such as a more fair and equitable redistribution of wealth. It makes sense that the wealthy CEO of a corporation who makes more money than most people could spend in a lifetime would be taxed at a higher rate than the nurse pulling night shifts in the ER of your local hospital. Which brings us back to your tax return. How much tax do you pay every year? $10,000? $20,000? How about $0,000? That's right, no tax. Most of us would receive a sternly written letter from the ATO if we somehow managed to pay $0 in tax over the course of a year. And yet, that's exactly how much some of the biggest multinational corporations pay in tax, sometimes over multiple years. Who are these corporations? So glad you asked. Research by independent journalist Michael West shows that 2021's top 5 tax dodging corporations were, coming in at 5th spot, Peabody Australia Holdco. Coal giant Peabody amassed an income of more than $21 billion between 2015 and 2021, but paid $0 tax. Although you do feel a little for poor Peabody, given its business model is dependent on an increasingly obsolete commodity. In 4th place comes everyone's favourite telecommunications provider, Vodafone Hutchison Australia. In 6 years, Vodafone's income was more than $22 billion, and yet they paid $0 in tax. Hold on, one moment. Hello? No, I don't want to upgrade my plan to include international calls. In our first podium spot, we have Santos Limited coming in at 3rd. In the 6 years between 2015 and 2021, Santos actually did pay more than $3 million in tax.
Whoa, that's a lot of tax.
Hold your horses. That $3 million represents just 8.8% of their income over those 6 years.
Oh.
Now, for our runner-up, the corporation that could have come in at number 1 if they had just dodged that little bit harder. Virgin Australia Holdings Limited. The high-flying commercial airline made nearly $29.5 billion and paid, you guessed it, $0 in tax. And now, for the moment we've all been waiting for, the top tax-dodging multinational corporation in 2021 was none other than oil and gas behemoth ExxonMobil Australia. In 6 years, ExxonMobil's income was more than $50 billion. You'd think they'd pay a lot of tax on that, but no. In that time, ExxonMobil paid no less than $0 in tax. If this was an actual award, you can bet they'd be thanking their incredibly creative accounting team at PwC in their acceptance speech. All right, well, that was a lot of money earned just between those 5 corporations and next to no tax paid. So, how can you do it? How do you get away without paying a single cent in tax, even when your annual income might be in the billions? First, you need to become a corporation. Sorry, these tax avoidance strategies won't work for people. Let's call this corporation Nick Corporation. Then, you need to set up a whole bunch of other corporations connected to you and base them somewhere nice and sunny, like the Cayman Islands or Panama. The perfect spot for sipping cocktails on the beach and engaging in aggressive tax avoidance. But you won't ever actually need to set foot there. In fact, these corporations don't need to have any staff or even an office space. They need to exist on paper. Then you get your Cayman Islands corporation, let's call it Shellco, to give you a loan. Or maybe they could sell you something like a patent for some new technology. Nick Corporation, based in Australia, pays Shellco, a subsidiary of Nick Corporation, based in the Cayman Islands, $14 billion for this patent. You're essentially purchasing something from yourself. But because this was an expense for Nick Corporation, you get to deduct it from your income. Meanwhile, Shellco has just made a sweet little profit of around $14 billion. But because Shellco is based in the Cayman Islands with a corporate tax rate of 0%, they don't need to pay any tax on that profit, meaning all the profit can be returned to the good shareholders of Nick Corporation. And there you have it. With a little nifty accounting and a lot of help from big firms experienced in this kind of accounting, you've managed to dodge tax on $14 billion. It's so easy, anyone can do it. Oh wait, no, we can't. Like most people, we pay the tax we owe because it's illegal not to. Because if we don't, there would be no way to fund the community services we and others in our community rely on every day. But here's the kicker. What these corporations are doing is perfectly legal. There's a complex web of tax loopholes that make it almost impossible to find out which corporations are dodging tax and how they do it, which is why we need to make moves to start closing these loopholes. The newly elected Labor government have good form when it comes to talking about cracking down on multinational tax avoidance. It's something they've been talking about for years, but now they're in a position to do more than just talk. In the lead up to the federal election, Shadow Assistant Minister for Treasury, Andrew Lay, committed to introducing a beneficial ownership register if elected. It's something the Turnbull government also committed to introducing back in 2016, until they walked back from their commitment. While it wouldn't immediately close any tax loopholes, a beneficial ownership register would be an important tool for regulators, law enforcement, and other businesses to find out exactly who is behind a corporation. You see, not knowing who the actual owner of a corporation is creates an environment where corporations can hide the identity of people who might be engaged in aggressive tax dodging. Leaked documents such as the Panama Papers in 2016 and the Paradise Papers in 2017 expose the extent to which anonymous shell companies and complex corporate structures are used to disguise the real owners of corporations. In response, multiple countries committed to introducing stricter transparency measures to enforce corporate accountability. However, while countries such as the UK, the US, and Canada have made moves to introduce a beneficial ownership register, Australia still lags behind. A publicly accessible and freely available beneficial ownership register listing all the owners of a corporation would help expose some of these hidden corporate owners. So you now know the problem with corporate tax dodging, and part of the solution. The government knows it too. But without sustained public pressure, it risks easily falling off their agenda. Multinational corporations have gotten away with not paying what they owe for far too long, at the expense of our democracy and our community. Now that it's tax season, when you're filing your tax returns, just remember how you're paying more than some of the richest corporations in Australia. It's time we make them pay. If you didn't get corporate tax dodging, we hope you get it now.